With that, let's do another highlight video here real quickly on a marquee game, probably the best game of the weekend in college football. Game 343, 344, Cincinnati and UCF. One-sided Cincinnati money here so far in this game. This line's up to 6 market-wide, total 63.5. I'm joined by pro bettor and handicapper Brad Powers from bradpowersports.com. And I'm host Adam Burke, the host here of our ATS Radio betting podcast. Brad, first and foremost, what do you think about the line move in this game?
I'm not overly surprised just because Cincinnati's been so damn dominant here in the last 4 games. I mean, winning by an average of 33.5 points per game, covering by 23 points per game. So if you've been betting Cincinnati and you've been winning easily. So I'm not, big time surprised that it's moving in Cincinnati's direction. I do think it's it's gotten certainly pricey if you want to back Cincinnati here from a pure power ratings aspect. For me, I mean, I only got Cincinnati 1 here, and to put in perspective, oh Brad, you're too low on Cincinnati. That's not true. I have Cincinnati power rating number 11. I've never had at this point in a season, in a regular season, I've never had a group of 5 team power rate as high as Cincinnati, right, as I do right now. So maybe I'm too high on UCF, but I even downgraded that. I'm not sure that everyone's well aware that they lost 4 starters off the bye. I downgraded them a couple points after losing those guys. It was an off-field incident. So I just Cincinnati is way too pricey. It's an auto play on UCF for me.
I got this game 3, so I'm definitely lower than the market is. I'm kind of waiting to see if a 7 appears. I don't know if that's going to happen. It looks like 6.5 was kind of the stopping point for this game because it did get there and then came back down a little bit to 6. So it feels like 6.5 is your point of resistance in this one. So if you want UCF, 6.5, probably the best you're going to be able to do at this point in time. These are always such tough handicaps for me, though, because, has Cincinnati faced an offense like this year? No. And this is a UCF offense that has left quite a few points on the field. They've kicked short red zone field goals. They've had turnovers in the red zone. Think back to that Memphis game that they squandered, left a bunch of points on the field in that one. But Cincinnati, they've not faced an offense like this, a team that runs with this kind of tempo. SMU is a decent offense, and Cincinnati dominated them. Kudos to them for that.
They dominated Memphis too. I mean, Memphis and SMU are pretty good offenses that they kicked that's why people probably aren't afraid of betting Cincinnati. I mean, the 2 closest teams to UCF offensively, Cincinnati dominated them.
That's fair. No, that is fair. So I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misspoke there in saying that they haven't really seen an offense like this. And when UCF has seen a good defense, it was Tulsa and they lost that game. So for UCF here, you do wonder about that. Can they move the football with great effectiveness against this Cincinnati defense? I'm not sure what the answer to that question is. And something else, you mentioned this very early on in the season here, and it's stuck in the back of my mind all year long. Josh Heupel is not doing the same things at UCF that his predecessors did. They have left points on the field. They have lost close games. They've done some uncharacteristic things, from what we saw specifically during the Scott Frost tenure in Orlando. So that worries me here. If this becomes a close game, who do I trust? Who do I trust to take care of the football? Which coach do I trust? Those are some big questions here about this game, I think.
Hit the nail on the head as usual, man. I will bet UCF. I will have a UCF. I've already bet UCF at a bad number. I mean, it's the one time that, I don't have closing line value here, so I am surprised in that regard. But that is my biggest worry, that UCF is not buttoned up. They're one of the worst teams in the country in penalties. They make costly errors in that regard, and they're not completely buttoned up in the red zone. They make costly turnovers. On the flip side, Cincinnati is buttoned up, is well coached. So that is my worry here. Push comes to shove in that regard. I understand why Cincinnati is getting some action, but in a game like this, in a very big game where I think motivation is not going to be a concern for either team, that they both want to win it, this is to me where I trust my power rating more in this spot, where I'm not questioning motivation, guys opting out and whatnot. So I got to trust it, and I mean UCF for me.
Well, and of course, too, Cincinnati only playing their second road game of the year. They played one in Dallas, had one in Tulsa.
They got 3 straight coming up.
Yep, 3 straight road games coming up. That Tulsa game will be an interesting one down the line here a little bit. But a good breakdown, maybe not a consensus opinion necessarily, but still a strong breakdown here. A lot of food for thought on this Cincinnati versus UCF game. You get a lot of food for thought on our full broadcasts of ATS Radio, and we certainly encourage you to listen to the full editions of that podcast. And also make sure you download the ATS app as well, which you can find in the Google Play Store, in the Apple Store, or links to download that over at ATS.io.